This is on a website, mobilize.us, NEA. This is for NEA members, okay? This gives them a whole bunch of links and flyers and information about all kinds of far left political activity that they can engage in. The NEA, the National Education Association, is the largest public sector union in America, comprised of teachers, administrators, educators, 3 million. Look at this. Stop ICE, fight ICE now. Meet at the courthouse. We are done with performative demonstrations. Look at this. We can be a powerful presence. Wear black, wear a mask. Don't want them to see who you are, do you? Look at that. All the information right there to sign up to fight ICE. That is for educators. Let's see, candlelight vigils. Oh, a legislative update in Indiana. Wow. Georgia, ICE out in Georgia. You think it's just the blue states? Think again. They are mobilizing far left activists. They are bringing them into your red state. As I am talking to you right now, it's happening. Indivisible, look at that. That was South Carolina. Illinois, North Carolina. Candlelight walk-in visual in my neck of the woods, Wisconsin. Michigan, no ICE, no war. Again, these are all protests. They're political protests with radical activists. Now here's a legislative day that was shown before, Indiana. Days of action, Indiana State Teachers Association, Missouri. More, look at, let's mobilize in Missouri, come on. Let's bring all the left-wing activists. Day of action in Missouri. This is a teachers union, a teachers union. When do they ever talk about students and children and raising reading scores and test scores and proficiency rates? When do they ever talk with teachers about what they need in classrooms? I don't think they talk about that very much at all. Look at this, Washington State. Young Worker March on Washington. So this would mean, hey, let's get your students involved, young workers. Wow. NEA makes you wonder why. So it's on an activist website. Here we go, Stand with Minnesota. Minnesota's under occupation. You can see some of the language here. They need your help. And they're going to provide a vetted directory. So let's just keep looking. Help impacted families pay their rent. Donate to the orgs on the front line. Go to a GoFundMe. Who are you going to fund? Oh, you're going to go fund the protesters? Yeah, going to help them, get them food, pet and animal support, union member support. Could that be the teachers union? Crowdfunding campaigns. Oh, look, they have a form you can donate. Let's see. Funds for schools and students, fund for communities, funds for employees. Oh, look, all the organizations doing the work on the ground. This is, mind you, this is just one website of many. Legal defense, jail support. So if they're protesting and they get arrested, look at all of these organizations. Keep going. Yep, keep going. Still more. Again, this is just one website of many. all the organizations that are on the ground in Minnesota. This is just a little bit. Here's the legal support. Yeah, so and this is for the protesters. A lot of this is for the protesters. Immigrant Rapid Response Fund. So then they've got.
This isn't politics to us Hispanics. This is our lives. We tend to be afraid to speak our family's language in public, afraid of neighbors, afraid of strangers, afraid that someone's perception, not a crime, not a threat, just bias, could lead to a called attention or abuse. Always scanning rooms, always lowering our voices, always wondering who might be listening. That fear follows you everywhere you know. It teaches you that safety is conditional, that your humanity is negotiable. So let me ask you plainly, will it take for you to live this fear every day before you feel empathy? Will it take your family being targeted, your language used as the bullseye, your child being taken? And to those who hide behind religion and supporting this, hear me clearly as your sister in Christ. The Bible does not defend cages. It does not excuse rape. It does not bless terror.
ICE is specifically targeting communities in Milwaukee, like the Hmong people, Somalians, and people of Hispanic descent. Not too long ago, they deported my gang, a Hmong American born in Thailand, to Laos, a country that she has never even been to before. This is outright nonsense. ICE has to be stopped before the public executions, racial profiling, and the unwarranted kidnapping of people continues.
And look me in my eyes when I say this. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. You do not get to shut it. Stop the deportation. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Say it once, we will not put it up with ICE. People united will never be defeated. The people united
Hi, everyone. This is Unleashed with me, Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And today I'm joined again by friend Ryan Walters. He's a dad of four, first and foremost, CEO of Teacher Freedom Alliance, and the former Oklahoma State Superintendent and Secretary of Education. And I've been looking at your X account. There is so much going on right now. It's kind of hard to know where to start, especially after I've had some conversations with my friends' moms, Erin Lee, who is a huge parental rights activist and activist for children in Colorado, talking to Meg Brock, who grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and now she is in South Carolina, talking to Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty attorneys, just about all the things that are happening. And it's enough to just like, maybe it's nice to have kids home and distracting you for a bit while it's really cold. Although I think many of us are ready for them to go back to school. I don't know about you. How is it in Oklahoma?
Well, it's cold. It's cold. We've done a lot of sledding and snowman building and things like that. But to your point, parents are under attack from every angle. It seems like they just continue to escalate these attacks. You see what's going on in Minnesota. You see what teachers union officials are pushing against the United States government, against President Trump, against ICE, and ultimately it's against parents. It's an attack on you. I know that you are more familiar with that than anybody, but it is really a fight on all fronts. The left doesn't stop. They don't slow down. And even with the victories you've had, Moms for Liberty have had, they just double and triple down, and their tactics continue to get nastier.
Yeah. I mean, what's happening in Minnesota with these protests, anti-ICE protests, but it is affecting families all over the country and schools all over the country, because teachers unions are leading the way in using schools as a way to, I don't know, recruit, because the messaging that I'm seeing. I got an account on Blue Sky, and so I'm following a lot of teachers unions, and the stuff that I'm seeing is insane. It's insane what they're doing, the posts that they're just putting right out there. And I know you're talking a lot about it. What are you seeing?
Our teachers, we've got good teachers that are actually about teaching kids, want to work with parents. So they started alerting us early last week saying, you won't believe what the union is pushing on ICE. And so they started sending us the emails, and we go, this is incredible, calling them murderers, calling them terrorists, saying they're out to kill the kids, kill the parents, outrageous stuff. Then it went even further. They began instructing the teachers to walk out, strike on Friday, wear blue, to signal that you are against ICE. You saw videos of teachers in classrooms telling the kids that ICE isn't really police officers, they're not really law enforcement. And, to me, one of the crescendos of this, too, is Tim Walz. I mean, you couldn't have a politician that's more antithetical to parents and kids than Tim Walz. I don't know if you saw his statements over the weekend with everything that's happening in Minnesota. He decides to go as far as injecting Anne Frank and saying that this will be a story that kids will read in the future about these tactics, and comparing President Trump and the United States to Nazi Germany, which I just want to take a minute here. Don't forget that Tim Walz is a public school teacher, teachers union teacher. So, it's just, how many times do you think Tim Walz, at the behest of the union and everybody else, walked into a classroom, just like he did for the entire country, went forward and gave them propaganda like Donald Trump is Hitler, the United States is the equivalent of Nazi Germany, to the kids in his classroom? That happened all the time. But you're seeing it front and center. The most radical governor in the country, teachers union, card carrying, left-wing teaching activist. That's what you see in the classroom from these teachers union types on a daily basis.
Yes. So I just posted yesterday, and I know because you've had this, the Washington State Education Association, Eyes on ICE. They had a Zoom, join NEA members, civil rights, labor, and community members. And this was a training. They were giving training on how to use your position in schools to recruit other educators, how to influence classrooms, how, it's really shocking. And this is the largest public sector union in the country with over 3 million members, most of whom are teachers or educators or in that space. And this is what they're doing. They're not focused on reading, writing. They're not focused on raising proficiency scores. They spend all of their time almost exclusively engaging in political, actually radical left political activities.
And we even saw them instructing members of how to prevent ICE agents from doing their jobs. There was a video posted of, again, a student videotaped a teacher instructing the kids on how they were going to do this. And okay, that's a federal crime to impede a federal law enforcement officer doing their jobs. And this is where you see this escalates to this crazy level of what we're seeing in Minnesota. The left, through the teachers union, has stirred this up to such a fever pitch that law enforcement officers are putting their lives on the line on a daily basis, trying to get crime under control, trying to deport criminal illegal immigrants that cause a danger to society. And let's be frank, they cause a danger to kids, to families, and they're out there trying to do their jobs. And the left is trying to have this country come apart at the seams by pushing this Marxist ideology every step of the way. The comparisons to Nazi Germany are outrageous. The calls for violence on ICE officers is outrageous. But the coordination, I think you do a great job of talking about this. This is not a one-off deal. This is not a, you know what, this one member of the teachers union got really mad today and said something that I think's crazy, but you know what, there's a few crazy oddballs here and there. No. This is a coordinated effort from the top of the teachers union to utilize their membership to further their left-wing agenda, which is to tear the country apart and install a Marxist regime. And so that's where you see they never miss an opportunity to do that. They jump all over anything President Trump is doing. They mobilize, they attack, they coordinate. And again, you're seeing that play out right now in Minnesota.
They never let a crisis go to waste. So NEA there's an app, Mobilize US, mobilize.us. At National Education Association, find an event near you. Local events are a great way for local fellow educators to make their voices heard. And then they have candlelight walks, vigils, trainings, all sorts of activism, walkouts, May Day. And then it says right here, they have organized protests, and they're working with socialist groups, Popular Democracy, Public Citizen 50. They just name all of these different groups for march outs all over the country. Florida, North Dakota, Ohio, Iowa, everywhere, North Carolina. So just took me 20 minutes, and they are heavily promoting this in red states, blue states. You can't think, oh, I'm in Florida, I'm in Iowa, I'm okay. No, they're trying to radicalize everywhere.
And that's a great point. I think folks need to understand that is they want to take red states, and look, I live in a red state. I'm very proud to be from Oklahoma, live in Oklahoma, very proud of the work being done in Texas and Florida, Arkansas, some of these states that are really leading the charge, but they want to take a red state over. They have embedded themselves in every state in the country. They utilize the national apparatus. We saw it here in Oklahoma where millions come in from out of state, from New Jersey, from Michigan, and you start seeing all this money pour into your state to try to take out initiatives that support parents and parents' rights. And I've got an anecdote from just over the weekend. I was talking to a national reporter who said, you're not going to believe the story. We were talking to a local politician up here in the Northeast, and they said the teachers union was going to come, hey, we'll come phone bank for you on the weekends. And he goes, okay, I figure, what do you think? 3 or 4 people show up on a Saturday? Literally had hundreds show up to phone bank. And he was telling this story of just like, oh, isn't this great? And she said, I'm sitting there going, so in a couple of days, they got hundreds of people to come phone bank for a local political race, but it shows you how much they mobilize. Yes. They mobilize across state lines. It is a national machine.
Yep.
That is, I will say this, they are very effective. They have their talking points. They have the lies that they push. They have their membership numbers that are so large. They have hundreds of millions of dollars, and they use them to exert as much damage to the country as possible.
So I mean, I can talk so much about this, the machine. I just sat through what's a group called Red, Wine, and Blue. And I've signed up. I think there's something again tonight, and it's actually about mobilizing. And so I learn a lot just by watching, taking notes. And they have, this is going to be about phone banking. So they are training, I think the last time there was 15,000 people on live. Then they direct them over to training. They work with all sorts of progressive groups. They specifically had representatives of teachers unions there encouraging, hey, we've got to be a part of this. And they have apps where when they phone bank, one call goes to 10 people. They're like, we make our numbers seem far bigger than they are. How to upset an algorithm so they like your account, they would target you. Let's go target Ryan Walters. Let's go target a Teacher Freedom Alliance, and let's bombard them. Lots of things that were just blowing my mind that I wouldn't think of, but that's what they do. And they have a lot of paid activists, but a lot of union members. They do so much of this work, and it's just shocking to me. It's really shocking.
Well, I'll give you an example. Here in Oklahoma, we were pushing for parents' rights piece of legislation, and we got the legislature got bombarded with emails, right? So I asked one of the members of leadership. I said, "Listen, you're telling me you're getting all this negative feedback. Like everywhere I can go to Walmart, I can go to the local diner. Parents and grandparents are thanking us for pushing this and protecting their rights. How about you go in and see how many of those emails came from out of state?" Yes. So they used some technology to do that. Over 90% did. And I went back to my guys, this is absolutely the teachers unions utilizing it. Again, they're very good at it, but again, these legislators wake up one morning and go, my goodness, I got 3,000 emails. I'm like, well, 97% of them weren't from Oklahoma. So what does that tell you? It tells you, frankly, what we were doing is what we should be doing. We were absolutely defending parents against this monster organization that's coming in to push their ideology. And again, they can mobilize their national membership very quickly.
Yes, we had a there was postcards, and they were written, and they were so-called handwritten. Then I learned that is actually there are printers that can make these postcards look like they're handwritten. There's a whole like system behind it, and they'd say friend, or Scarlett, hey, did you know about making aware of myself, of my own efforts to bring sanity, fighting for parental rights. Then you look at the stamps and the dates. New York, like stamp from New York, from California, from Florida. We started posting them online, and then suddenly this effort stopped. And when it started up, they got wise to the fact that, oh wait, our postmarks are from all over the country, and you're writing like you live right here in Wisconsin when you don't. And that's some of the tactics that they do. They make it seem what is AstroTurf is actually organic when it's not. Like groups like Indivisible, they coordinate, they work together, they make it seem like this is real, but it's very far left radical groups, very well funded. What's really shocking to see is that they are infiltrating schools, particularly high schools. And I can give a personal example because in a high school, Shorewood High School, which is probably 10 to 15 minutes from my house, it's in our area, students walked out, anti-ICE protest. They were led during the school day, hundreds. They were led by elected Democrat members of our state assembly. They were holding horns, and they were telling the kids to march against the Nazis, like slogans like "We're not KKK, go away," all of that. Then they got to City Hall, where on the bullhorn, these elected Democrat members inferred that if you're not with us, you're against us. And we need to take down this evil empire. And you should call, telling these minor students, call your state representatives, get involved, come to Madison, do political activism. And if you see a federal agent, an ICE agent, what do? and he had them yell, "Fight back." And they're like, "Fight back, fight back." He's talking about, these are armed federal agents. He's telling kids when they see armed federal agents to fight back. To me, that's incitement, it's immoral, and it should be criminal.
Right, and you've seen this with other Marxist regimes throughout history. They use kids as weapons, as political pawns, to achieve their goals. I was just reading the other day the story about how coffee was introduced in Japan. This little side note, but it's funny that in Japan they weren't drinking coffee. It wasn't something that was prevalent. So a lot of the coffee companies came in and said, "What if we make coffee flavored candy for the kids, where they like the taste of it, and when they get older, then we'll have a customer base for our coffee." So it was, hey, let's get in with the kids. Let's find a way that's digestible for them to start liking this flavor, and then we can sell coffee later on when they're adults. What you've seen, again, when it comes to the transgenderism that's been pushed, the anti-Americanism that's pushed, they start off when they're in kindergarten, first, second, third grade. And to your point, when they get up in high school and in college, it is full-blown Marxist theory. It is full-blown, the most far left radical ideas being pushed on them. But they have started with the kids. They have literally groomed them. They have literally indoctrinated them. So when they get to be adults, you get people where, they're biting the fingers off an ICE agent. You can't have conversations with folks that have been that indoctrinated for so long. And again, you see folks on our side, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, God bless him, for just saying, I want to have the conversation. I am just trying to open you guys up to see that there's other ways to think, and let's just challenge each other. You see that they killed him over that. And you see the violence there that comes from, again, when you start indoctrinating kids at that early age, it is to get them to be Marxist foot soldiers in a war against America.
Yeah, and I'm glad early on you said that a lot of the information you get is from educators, because I was made aware of this situation in Shorewood by teachers. Mm-hmm. Teachers sent me the video. They sent me the links. They said, "Here's where you find it." I wouldn't have known. It was being live streamed by teachers unions. And so they're like, "Here's the link, go to this Instagram here, please expose this." They were like, "Please expose this. Like, this is wrong. They should not be doing this." So there was teachers that have been sending me the flyers and showing me where to look and telling me, "You got to get on Blue Sky. Here's where you have to go." So there are many teachers that do not agree with this. They don't want it. So I want to be sure we're talking about those activist few, but they make a lot of noise, and they bully and intimidate everyone else. And they've got a lot of power because they are affiliated usually with teachers unions. And, I think sometimes the instinct is, I don't want to lose my job. I just don't want to, I just don't want to get involved. Sure. But then you see what you just posted. A California teacher tells students how to avoid ICE. And, you have to get involved.
And, and that's what we're doing here at the Teacher Freedom Alliance, and to be clear of what you're talking about there is a lot of good teachers out there. We've had hundreds of teachers join from Minnesota since last week that are saying, what in the world? They're shutting down school for ICE protests, or they're mobilizing again. No. We don't want our dues going to that. That's not what we signed up for. You told us this was a professional organization. That's not what I signed up for. That's not what my check should be going to. And we've got to continue in this fight to protect our kids, get parents more involved with our kids. We've got to find these good teachers, give them options like what we provide here at TFA. We've got to say, listen, we want good teachers in our classroom. What we don't want is a political machine, the teachers union, that's coming in, using teachers, frankly, threatening teachers, mobilizing them for political means. And again, we talk to members every day that go, I want to get out. I am so concerned. What happens to me, my career, my job when I leave? You won't believe the stuff that they do. And so we continue to provide them those protections and help them do that. But again, they have captured this institution as our K-12 schools, our higher ed institutions. We're fighting to get them back. Parents, you guys, Moms for Liberty, you've been on the front lines of this. You've seen it up close and personal. And again, you and I have had this conversation before. I think parents would be amazed at how many of our tips of bad things coming from the classroom was a good teacher next door, a good teacher down the hall who said, hey, I saw this go on and I've got to tell somebody, I've got to do this. This isn't right. And so you've got a lot of good people in the school system. We've got to find them. We've got to support them. We've got to empower them. And we've got to get back to partnering good teachers, parents, and kids to get education back on track. And again, the teachers union, that is their worst nightmare. They want parents out. They want good teachers scared. And they want to indoctrinate kids.
And they want good teachers out. I think if more teachers were involved with your organization, they would stay. They wouldn't leave at 16 years, 17, 18 years, 2 years away from their retirement, and they can't take it anymore and they leave. In Wisconsin, we're trying to pass a teacher bill of rights because the number one reason that teachers are leaving the profession, they don't feel safe in schools. They don't feel that the administration or the state superintendents have their back. They have no tools in their toolbox. It's they're actually getting physically harmed, and then there's emotional and mental anguish inflicted on them, and they can't do their job. And then even in a suburban school, let's say that's a little more safe, well, there's kind of this cookie cutter approach to education, and they're not allowed to think outside the box and use their well-honed skills, their instincts. They've been doing this, they know that every year, and you know this as a teacher, there's no one way. 1 year you'll have a certain group of kids, 30 kids, and the next year it'll be a different group, and you've got to adjust, adapt, improvise, overcome, so that that maybe there's more girls this year, maybe there were more boys than they were. So you got to adjust your strategies. But when you've got this kind of cookie cutter woke approach, and then here's the list of books that you have to use, even if you would like to teach something else, you gotta follow these guidelines. And who wants to? That's not why you go into teaching. That's not what you wanted to do. You want to inspire and make a change. And so we need organizations that protect good teachers and have their back.
I mean, it doesn't take you long as a parent to figure out that kids are unique and different, does it? I mean,
No.
it doesn't take very long to go, you know what she needs isn't exactly what he needs. And they're different people, and they learn differently, and they think differently. And it's amazing. God's gift to all parents of the uniqueness of their children. They're all made in God's own image, but they're all unique. We understand that about our own kids. And that's where it's so important that, good teachers, they want to partner with parents. They understand that not only is a parent vital to that kid's life, there's nobody more vital. They also understand, I'm going to understand this kid better. I'm going to get a better connection with this kid when it comes to their learning, how they learn, how they process, by getting to know their parents. That's so important in that process. But to your point, you're exactly right. Unions could care less. They're a political machine. So for them, their ideology also blinds them so badly. How is a teacher supposed to teach in a classroom where there's maximum disruption, where kids are throwing staplers or threatening their own teachers? But for them and their Marxist ideology, well, they're victims. Well, this person's a victim. And they play that critical race theory game when actually it's the exact opposite. Expectations on kids, on their behavior is what's important, right? That's how you can make sure that they learn what's right, what's wrong, and make sure that they're doing that in a classroom where little Johnny that's trying to sit there and read isn't having another kid yell at him or threaten his teacher right in front of him. And so you see all this, this is the breakdown of the educational system. And this is what happens when you're given over to Marxism. It causes this mass disruption that what ends up happening is this ultimate power grab. And you hear this from teachers all the time. They have some woke left-wing administrator that's just top down, bottom down. You got to do it. Read from a script, teach every kid this way. If they don't do it, send them here, send them there. We're not machines. We're not robots. We're individuals. That's not how you teach. And who wants to teach in that environment? And then, by the way, what do the administrators do to take it one step further? They build government. That's why you have more administrators now than ever before, because superintendent wants to have 4 deputy superintendents, and they've got 4 deputies, and then they've got a dean of students, and before you know it, every state in the country now has more administrator bureaucrat types than have teachers.
Yes.
Going, why in the world would a good person want to be a teacher in this environment? That's why it's so important to get back to the basics, and we know what those are, and that's how you attract good teachers, and that's how you get kids to learn.
Yes, I was reading in some a Reddit chat of teachers and some regarding the children of non-English speaking children. So children that are coming into kindergarten. One teacher said that she was potty training half of the class. This is kindergarten. They weren't even potty trained and they didn't speak English. I mean, that, and just frustrated. Like she couldn't teach the class because there was accidents and having to potty train and not be able to communicate in a kindergarten class. I don't understand, how is a teacher supposed to do their job in this environment? And that's where, like, you can have all the compassion you want, but you can't have the resources, limited resource we have, taken up by families that aren't supposed to be here. They're not here legally, and the children aren't, they don't speak English. But then, of course, you have a union coming in saying, how dare you point that out? How dare you comply if you're told by the federal government, do you have children that you suspect have a non-citizen status? And I don't think that ICE is coming into schools or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is that there's just all of these issues, and teachers are sort of left kind of having to deal with these problems that they shouldn't have to be dealing with if the federal government was doing their job, or the state government for that matter.
I'm going to tell you one of the scariest points with illegal immigration that scares me is the fentanyl crisis. I mean, these kids with the fentanyl, we have seen it's almost exclusively coming across the border. And when you see this, fentanyl is, and I know you know this, I mean, it's so dangerous because unlike other drugs where, of course, it's bad, you never want kids to do drugs, you never want them to get addicted, they may take fentanyl one time and drop dead. I mean, you see this coming across the country. And again, it is almost exclusively coming across the border. We have allowed that to come into our schools. We've allowed it to come into our communities where kids will make mistakes. They make one mistake there, they're dead. They don't go home to mom and dad. They don't get a chance at rehab or to fix things there. It is dangerous. There have been incredibly dangerous criminals that have come across that border. It's very common sense to shut the border down, to get the illegal criminals back across the border. And yet the teachers unions, where have they been on the fentanyl crisis? Where have they been on the danger that this has brought into our schools and our society? Dead silent, because their Marxist worldview is such that they absolutely want open borders. They want the chaos. They want the American government to be torn down.
Yeah. And it's really hard for schools to function when you've got a majority of kids that don't speak English. And then you've got a teacher that is an English speaker in America. It's just a lot. I just recently, this was just last week, I went out to dinner with a group of our Moms for Liberty members, and they brought along three current teachers. This group is almost exclusively former teachers. It's my biggest, if I were to say our Moms for Liberty chapter in my area, the number one profession, it's education. They are all current and former teachers, or they're paraprofessionals. They volunteer teach. So I mean, it's anecdotal, but it's very interesting. So the teachers started to talk about situations that they're dealing with. One had said, she's a special ed teacher, and said that she's been doing it for over 20 years. And she said, you know what, Scarlett, I'm ready to lose my job, and I'm going to defy the administrators, and I'm going to identify these kids in kindergarten that I think need an IEP, their special needs, but I've been told to not tell their parents and to not test them or refer them. And if I lose my job, and I was like, hold up, wait a second. You don't need to, you that is illegal. Like, they can't fire you for doing your job. Right. Here's an organization. And I showed them your website, and she was so excited. She's like, really? Like, you need to talk to them, and you're having a conference. I'm like, let's all go. And they were all so excited at the thought that, like, there's options. Like, I could get maybe I wouldn't get fired if I actually, like, stood up for my students and did what is ethical and actually what is statutorily required. And so that just goes to show you that these were conservative teachers that had not heard of your organization and were not aware that they could have help if they needed it.
And that's where, I appreciate so much you getting the word out about the Teacher Freedom Alliance and the work we're doing, because again, we see this all over the country where they are so, and by the way, they're blocking us in Washington State from even reaching out to teachers. If we email teachers, we're now under threats of lawsuits, just telling them, you don't have to join the union, right? There's other organizations. We have blue states that are saying you can't email the teachers. Only the teachers union can email the teachers. No other organizations.
And they sure do.
Yeah, that's literally a lawsuit that's going on right now. And so what we continue to see is they don't want them to know that there's other options. They don't want them to know. And here's the other thing. The teachers unions do a great job of this. They bully, intimidate, threaten good teachers. And so good teachers like the one you just described sit there and go, I guess I'm alone. I guess I'm just such an outlier here. I don't, maybe I'm the only one who sees it this way. You're not. Most parents see it the way that you do. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot of teachers that see it the way you do. And this is how we get education back on track, because everything that you just said from that teacher, that's common sense. You tell most people publicly that, they're going to go, well, I want that person teaching my kids. That's the kind of mentality that I want. And, you see this, and to take it to a little other lane, this is one of the things I saw the teachers union defending the federal Department of Education. I'm going, so hold on a second. What good teacher wants a bureaucrat in Washington, D.C.? I mean, much less a bureaucrat in your own building. But who would want a bureaucrat from Washington, D.C. telling a special needs teacher like the one you just described, this is how you teach?
Yep.
Little Johnny in your classroom in Texas or in Florida. That is the most absurd thought in the world. Like I said, I think it's absurd to have an administrator doing that in your local school district building, much less a D.C. bureaucrat in the Department of Education. Eliminating that agency is such common sense. I applaud President Trump for his efforts there. But again, that's one of those things where they have so lied to their members. If you just talk to a teacher and you can get past the union talking points, you start going into, you really think that a bureaucrat sitting at a desk in D.C. should tell you how to teach your class today? Okay, well, that's what we're talking about here, guys. That is what the union's defending. That's what they're protecting, because of the power that gives them to dictate their ideology to the kids.
You know how you could talk. I have had teachers come up to me almost like so you don't support teachers, and they're progressive, all of that, and I'll say, what do you think about how administrators, like the increase in hiring of administrators, and that they aren't hiring more teachers, they're not hiring more paraprofessionals, math specialists, reading specialists. Do you think that funds should be going towards hiring more administrators? And she's like, no, absolutely not. Actually, I'm shocked. And just get them talking about how much they don't like the bureaucrats and how frustrated they are in our CISA. Now there's governing organizations that write grants, and how frustrated they are with their state representatives, and how the funding formula doesn't make sense, and how they don't get raises, that they don't even get like an inflationary raise in raises, but there's administrators making six figures, and the local superintendent is making $260,000, and they're always frustrated with their superintendent. I have gone to school board meetings where a teacher who was almost like my arch enemy, we came together because she was like, I disagree with so much of what Scarlett said, but what she said about the administrators is 100% right. We need to be able to teach. There's too many administrators. We're not allowed to do our job. So I have, so there are things that we agree on. If we, like you said, get beyond those union talking points, and they can see that you're a mom and a parent who cares, and you don't hate teachers. You love and care for teachers. They are so important. They were important in my life. They're important to my children. But man, when you see what's going on with some of these radical educators, call them out. Say, this isn't who we are. And say that, maybe we agree on some things, but we don't want our classrooms and our schools to be, the boot camp for the next generation of anti-ICE protesters, especially considering how dangerous that is. That's not where we should be putting young kids.
No, that's a great point. And strategically, the unions, the school boards, and the administrators made a strategic decision a few decades ago, which was, instead of, the school boards fighting with administrators, fighting with the union, what if we all just came together, negotiated this huge budget take our cut, get the teachers to believe that when they don't get as much as they feel like they should, that it's not our fault, it's Republicans' fault, it's conservatives' fault, it's parents' fault, taxpayers' fault. And so then we get to let's just all work together. We'll get our cut. We will use our weaponization of emails, of taxpayer funds and resources in the school system to push these lies, keep the teachers believing that it's conservatives, it's parents that are actually not getting them, the salary that for the performance that they're doing. And then, hey, we'll live high on the hog over here. And they've been very effective at that. And so it's when you start breaking that down, in Oklahoma, I froze administrative pay and they just lost their ever-loving minds. And you have teachers going, well, yeah, you gave yourself a record raise for like the last 8 years in a row. That's not a crazy concept. So we always try to show them, guys, hey, look, if you're doing a great job as a teacher, I want you to make a lot more money. I'm perfectly fine with that. But what we're not going to keep doing is keep funneling money into an apparatus that goes to political causes like the teachers union does, goes to administrators. And I'm going, why do you need 40 something administrators in a school of a few hundred? Like, this doesn't make sense, right? Yes. Conceptually, a school is about educating kids. So why in the world do you have more non-teachers than teachers? Yeah. And so you start asking these questions. And that's when, like you said, you can get to some of these teachers and go, they start looking at it going, well, that makes a lot of sense. But again, they have done an effective job of lying to the public, to teachers, to believe it's, and when you talk to conservatives, of course we want good teachers in there with our kids. Of course we want a good teacher that knows their material. Of course we want them to feel supported and everything else. But that's what the system has created, is that school board members, administrators, and the teachers unions are actually working against the teachers themselves.
Yeah, there are instances in my school district where they have an in-house marketing department, but when they're trying to sell the referendum, they hired a firm and spent millions of dollars. Like, well, why do you have in-house marketing and you have assistants and all this, and then you still hire a firm that's well known for getting these operational budgets across, building budgets, and it's a big issue that's happening in my state, and I think all over the country. Referendum and trying to get money, whether for more buildings and then eventually operational. It's just more money, more buildings, even though there are more parents homeschooling, there's declining in population, and where there's school choice, these public school buildings are kind of empty. Then they're not allowed to sell them to, they deny in the lease, they put in the contracts, they can't sell them to any other schools to use them. There's just so many things going on top of sort of the political stuff, that it can feel overwhelming. But if we just keep chipping away at it and doing the best that we can, I know that we can have success, but we really do need to win over more teachers. We really do.
And they're always going to say more money, more money. And I'm here to tell you, the money is not the issue. It's how the money is being spent. Yeah. If you prioritized kids and you prioritize good teaching and good academics, there's plenty of money there to make sure that the teachers are paid for the job that they're doing, that the kids have the resources. But when we continue to allow the teachers unions and the administrators to control the system and get their cut, they will always find an excuse where they need more money, because again, they are going to continue to pad their pockets. They're going to continue to grow bureaucracy. And this is where the efforts that you guys have getting involved in school board races, the efforts you have to inform parents and teachers around the country, it's so important in the work being done, because the reality is most people see it the way we do. Most parents, grandparents, taxpayers want kids to be educated in a common sense, back to the basics way. But it is a matter of dealing with the huge monstrosity of the teachers union.
Yes. So in closing, talk more about you have a big conference in July, right? And how can educators, teachers learn more? Let's talk about that conference, because I think it's great. I wasn't able to go last year, but I'm going to go this year, so I already have it on my calendar. And I think it's a great networking opportunity plus learning opportunity. And what are the major priorities you have for this spring?
Yeah, no, the Teacher Freedom Summit, July 15th through 17th. We would love for teachers, parents, taxpayers, grandparents, everybody come show up. Teachers, especially for you, what we've got is we're going to have a lot of training around how to get discipline back in the classroom. Isn't that is probably the top topic we are requested. Can you help us find good trainings on how we get discipline back in the classroom? Because the schools aren't doing it anymore. So we're going to have multiple sessions on that. We're going to have sessions about how you work closely with parents and making sure that the kids are getting what they need in the classroom. We're going to have academic resources available. We're going to have trainings for parents on how do you build that relationship with the teachers? How do you get involved? How do you see the curriculum? How do you find kind of these problem issues inside curriculum? It's going to be a great conference. And we're going to have specifics of how to teach different concepts, whether you're a math teacher, English teacher, reading teacher, kindergarten teacher. So we're going to have all of that as well. But it's going to be great. We listen to the teachers. What do they need to be the best teachers they can be? We include that. What do parents want to know? That'll be included. And then again, for taxpayers, school board members, we're going to talk about school finances. Where does the money go? How do you effectively budget for kids, putting their academics first? How do you make sure that that's what a school is doing? How do you make decisions around that? So it will be all of the above. We will have all the topics covered. We'll have some great speakers that we'll be announcing soon. But again, we'd love to have you guys in Dallas with us. And if you'll go to teacherfreedom.com, we have information there. Please sign up. It'll be a great conference. And again, we're looking forward to propelling all the teachers across the country and getting our schools back on track.
And that's if you're a small private school, a charter school, there's no limit. If you are a teacher, if you are an educator, even, would you say even a homeschooler?
Homeschool, private school, charter school, big public school, small rural public school. We're talking about the things that are tried, true in education. We know that are successful, those concepts that we've got to get back to. And then again, parents, grandparents, taxpayers, school board members alike, this is a back to the basics conference of how do you do education in a way that benefits all kids. And we're really excited to host it.
Oh, that's great. Well, I will be there, and I hope a lot more will be there, because there's always, I always learn something. There's always, and then that networking and learning about just the different inventive ways that parents, communities, teachers, they're coming up with ways to educate and breaking the mold. And kind of, we don't have to, just because it's the way things been done, especially when the NAEP scores show they're not doing it very well. I think it's time to reimagine education and do it in a way that fits the technology we have now and the real life situation of families right now. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for your work. And I'll keep referring more teachers to you, because it's really great that they have an organization that represents them and has their back.
Well, I sure appreciate that very much. And I appreciate all the work you're doing. You're a rock star. Thank you for fighting for the parents and fighting for the kids. So thank you for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, this is Scarlett Johnson here and with Moms for Liberty, and I am talking with my friend Sarah Garriott, and I could talk to you about what's happening in Washington, and I know Corey and I are going to talk about that, but I wanted to bring in someone who is there, boots on the ground, and who saw this miracle come to fruition. So Sarah, I want you to talk about what happened in Washington State and the huge achievement that you all just had this month. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Scarlett. I really appreciate that. It's been fantastic. There will be a rally on February 3rd, if anyone's around, for the two initiatives that Let's Go Washington sponsored. That's an grassroots organization here in Washington State, and our chapter, Moms for Liberty Pierce County, and several other Moms for Liberty chapters around the state partnered with them, as well as, of course, many other organizations and citizens across the state to gather signatures for the two initiatives, both of which, as of today, have qualified to the legislature. Our Secretary of State qualified both of them. And so one of them is keeping girls' sports female, and the other one is for parents' rights. And that one is especially interesting because we already passed it once. We already qualified it once. And so rather than be defeated, we're doing it again. And that's a long story. I don't know if you, I'm seriously long. I could wrap it up. You want me to know how that happened?
Yeah, what
Okay.
happened? I didn't know you'd already done it before. So what happened?
Yes, absolutely. So in 2023, Let's Go Washington, leader of that organization, his name is Brian Haywood, and he put out some money to help us get that across. And of course, many other organizations donated and helped, and we all gathered signatures, many of us, like myself, for free, without a cent, and spent many of our summer days and gathering signatures for the original Parents' Rights Initiative in the summer and fall of 2023. And in fact, that summer, some of our chapters members were out gathering signatures that summer, and we had lots of protesters with, blaring their horns at us. Black Panthers arrived fully armed. They eventually left, but it was crazy. In many of the initiative, people gathering signatures for this round also have been assaulted, harassed. I mean, it's been unbelievable. But undaunted, because this is for our children, with a smile on our face and trying to remain peaceful, we have gotten this done. So yes, the first round of signatures for the Parents' Rights Initiative was in 2023 legislative session in 2024, which we accomplished. The legislature, when they receive an initiative from the people, in other words, a law initiated from the people to the legislature, have three choices. They can pass it as it is written, and the governor may not veto it, or they can ignore it and send it to the ballot the following November for the people to vote on. And the third option is that they can allow it to go to the ballot, and then they can write sort of their own sort of side-by-side comparison, their own initiative similar to ours with their changes to it, and that can both go to the people on the ballot. So those are their choices. So in 2024 legislative session, they passed it almost unanimously. And of course, we celebrated. But immediately thereafter, our state superintendent, Chris Reichdahl, came out and said, school boards, don't pass this, don't put this into policy. We believe that it's unconstitutional and that it will be challenged in the courts. And we don't want to put you in legal jeopardy. So don't put it into policy. As if he just overruled the entire legislature, all the people, and everything. I mean, talking about no kings. This was and he's not a judge. He's the state superintendent. But that's what happened. And so then, of course, it was challenged. Yeah, go ahead.
Did the school districts have to listen? I mean, they don't have to, but they did, right?
They did, of course. Yeah. So they, cautiously, and now mind you, this was just coming on the heels of that same summer where we had the Biden Title IX changes. And when the Biden Title IX changes came down, that same superintendent came in and said, you must, school districts, put this into place, even though Moms for Liberty had, legal action, right, that we could stop that. And he said there are lawsuits, around the country, but none of them pertain to Washington State, which of course was false because of the Moms for Liberty one that we had, right? So this was just absolutely, and he said, I'm just keeping you all out of legal jeopardy. That was his line all the time. So anyway, talk about, hypocritical. But anyway, so then this happened. It was challenged. It went to the Washington State Supreme Court. And do you know, in King County, that's a Seattle court, they ruled in January of 2025, once the legislative session had started just this last year, that initiative was in fact constitutional. There was nothing wrong with it. And of course, they should have been putting it into place. So the legislature last year then wrote a law, HB 1296, it stripped all the most important things from the law. They had to just wait 1 year, and then they could go in and change it how they wanted to. So they went in, they stripped all the rights out of parents, the transparency, the medical, everything that we had, because this is parents' rights specifically for K through 12 public education. No more transparency. Yeah.
People, so they understand the parents' rights. One of the main, that it was prohibiting the secret transition of children.
Yes.
Right. And what else? Because it's not, because I think people will think, oh, parents' rights, but no, this is really serious.
Yeah, so parents have a right to access their children's medical records at school, have a right to access any curriculum, obviously, that's being taught, have a right to see any records that are being kept on their children at school, their behavior counselors' records, etc., right? So this is critical that parents have that right to be able to, they can't be transing children at school and keeping those secrets from parents. Now, Washington State has a policy that school districts across our state have been required to implement. It's policy 3211, in which the state has told them you need to have this in place to keep secrets from parents, essentially, that you can trans children. And in some of the language I've seen, now not all school districts, some have altered it, tried to soften it as best they could and still remain in accordance with this policy, but some of it even calls parents dangerous, right? I mean, such. So it's
Wow.
unbelievable. And so this is what they did. They stripped all of those things back out of the initiative that we had had. They had just passed a year before, literally, and that the Supreme Court here in Washington State had ruled now completely constitutional. And then they added more to it. They added things like if the school districts won't abide by state law, regardless if it's in conflict with federal law, then the superintendent can now withhold up to 20% of their funding.
Wow.
Yeah, so here you have this situation now where you've got school districts saying, but we don't want to keep secrets from parents. And if we don't put this policy in place, they can come in and do a review and withhold our funding, which we can't afford. And if we don't abide by Title IX, then the federal government will withhold our funding. And so here we are in this catch-22 situation. It's a no-win situation for our school districts. And we do have now a few school directors and parents out of Thurston County who have now a lawsuit against the state on that bill 1296, when it's now law. And as well as obviously this parents' rights initiative. So what Brian Haywood did, and all of us who helped gather the signatures this year was we said we're not going to. Oh, and I have to add one more thing. I'm sorry to interrupt myself. But in addition to that 1296, they also added another line that to the oath of office for school directors when they take the oath of office is no longer, promise to uphold the United States Constitution and the Washington State Constitution, but they added, and the laws of Washington State. Now, why would you need to add that? Because, but no, that was the Democrats that did that. They added this, so it's not really smart because what they did was, for them it might be.
Yes, explain it.
So they know that
that sounds great. Yeah.
Well, but they know that their law is contradictory to federal law, and contradicts Washington Constitution or Washington State Constitution. Some of these things. So what they're saying is, you know. We're just going to add, you're going to uphold the Washington State. Talk about insurrection-y, in my opinion. So, I mean, it feels like a soft secession in many ways. And at the same time, our state superintendent is crying foul to the Trump administration, saying, you can't withhold our federal dollars. We have local control over here. And then they turned around to our local school districts and said, you can't not pass these policies that we're demanding of you and not keep secrets from kids because we're going to withhold 20% of your funding. Who do you think you are? It's not like you're your own little kingdoms or something, as one senator said here in Washington.
Wow. Wow.
So this is this battle royale, right? So now that they passed this 1296 last year and stripped all this, Brian Haywood and the rest of us who helped collect signatures, getting back to that point, did it again. We're going to collect signatures to restore the Parents' Bill of Rights the way we put it to the legislature in the first place.
Great.
And Brian Haywood, and I don't have the exact numbers, you might want to get him on your call to talk with him, but he mentioned that between the union here, the WEA, and the other unions, et cetera, who are against these initiatives, that they outspent Let's Go Washington. I want to say it was 10-1. Like they spent something upwards of $50 million against us, in addition to organizing people to come and harass signature gatherers and all of that, right, when we were doing this last year.
Wow. Wow.
So I know.
For real caveat, could you just let everyone know your background real quickly? Because you've got a background that lends a lot, even more credibility to everything that you're doing.
Well, I don't know about that. I am the chapter chair of Moms for Liberty, Pierce County. I have been for 3 years. I'm a mom of 3 children. My youngest is 14.
And you've been fighting for a long time.
For about 5 years, since the lockdowns, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when I mean, I could tell you my whole story, but really 5 years ago when they locked this state down, and it was one of the hardest lockdown states, and our governor took kingship, I will call it, speaking of no kings, for over 900 days with no legislative
Wow.
oversight here in Washington state. Total control. And and those who
Wow,
were
that's
supported that just
long.
yes, yes. And we were always like shooting up flares. Does anyone, hey, because you'd hear on the news, California and New York and, Chicago or in Illinois. We're like, and Washington, don't forget us over here, Washington, but meanwhile, you have this, basically it feels like a cartel running the state, right? Between the unions, and we have a full Democrat trifecta. They've been in most, I mean, with a few exceptions, they've had a trifecta rule here in Washington for 40 years. And a lot
Why
of
do you
a lot is
think that
coming out these days.
why do you think that they held out for so long, even longer than some other blue states?
Well, there is a lot of, I could make lots of uh, guesses on that, but I don't. We have all mail-in voting here. I will say that.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, we were one of the first states. I believe Oregon was the first, and we tailed right on with them in California. I mean, you look at the people who have all mail-in voting: Colorado, Oregon, California, Washington, and sometimes I think, other areas have it sometimes too. And
Mhm.
and I think Utah has it now, which makes me ill. We can watch Utah turn blue real fast after that. So, and
Wow.
they're sanctuary states, or cities. So, and they're fighting the administration to have those people removed. And of course, there's lots happening around all those issues. So we can speculate all day long. I think more and more information is coming out, and we'll get to the bottom of this.
But
But in
okay,
the
but
meantime, they
okay,
are in power.
so considering all of that, considering
Hmm.
the deep, like the blue trifecta, and I just talked to Amanda McKinney, who's running for Congress, and
Yeah,
she
out of
said,
Yakima. Mhm.
yeah, Yakima County, and she said Washington State, like there's so much of Washington, like so is red, rural, all these, but then you've got these highly populated areas they're blue, they're small on the map, but they're densely populated, and they're powerful and there's powerful interests. So despite all of that, you were able to collect over 800,000 signatures, right? Is that,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah, over
is
900,000 for the two initiatives on the girl sports and the parents' rights. Yeah.
that is
Hmm.
not easy to do. I had to collect signatures to recall for school board members in my local area, and we had to get over 16,000. Then you have to overshoot
Yes.
because you can have they'll challenge,
Hmm.
there could be just something wrong, they'll find someone didn't sign
Hmm.
right, even though you go through and you try and figure it out. So you want to overshoot, you got to make
Yeah, you
sure
have
that,
to have that overage, at least 20%
yep.
plus, right?
Yep. So
Hmm.
we, what you said, I spent an entire summer living out of my minivan with my kids and a little
Hmm.
table that I'd bring out and
Yes.
just signs everywhere and petitions. And we were
Hmm.
challenged. We had to go to court. Luckily, we had the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they
Okay,
were
good.
trying to prevent us from putting up signs. They were trying to get us. Oh, we would go in front of the library. They would try to get us kicked out of that. They sent police officers over to intimidate us all the time. And we're
Unbelievable.
just moms with little kids at that time, like all of our little kids running around, and we're just trying to collect signatures.
The same
Um,
people who say they're out protecting democracy, right?
yep,
They're
yep,
trying to
they were trying
interrupt
to
an
thwart it.
actual very democratic process.
Yep, they were trying to thwart it.
Hmm.
When we turned in the signatures, they challenged, they hired a legal firm. We had to raise money and hire another legal firm. And when all that was done, it was so great to be able to do that. But the
Hmm.
power of the teachers unions, then after with the voting, we only had 6 weeks to have an election. You guys, how long do you guys have so this is on the ballot for November? then, right?
Well, so right now, technically, they could have a hearing. We would love for enough pressure to come on our legislature, maybe from the outside of the state, usually is what helps the most. When the light is shown on our legislature, they finally sometimes will react. So that would be nice. If we could get more attention on this from, outside of our state, that would be helpful. We really want them to have a hearing so that the people's voices can be heard. You should remember also that should be noted that in 2025, when they were busy stripping the parents' rights bill and making their own version of it last year, for the first time in 130 years, the Speaker of the House, Lori Jenkins, decided that she would get rid of the rule, and she changed the rule, I should say, so that she could end floor debate with a simple majority, rather than having a larger majority to do. And the one bill that I know for sure that she used that on was, of course, the Parents' Rights Bill, so that she literally silenced the voices of the people on this. After we had gathered the signatures, brought it from the people to our legislature, they then changed it all, came back, they changed it all, stripped it. They were making this HB 1296. Then the House Speaker shuts down debate on the floor so that the voices of the people and our representatives cannot be heard on our side. And then they added an emergency clause to that bill because it was such an emergency that these changes be made, that when they do that, we are not allowed to run a referendum on that bill. Normally we could, gather signatures, have 7 weeks to gather 200,000 signatures or whatever and run a referendum on it. But they added an emergency clause because they said it was such an emergency to, protect kids from the parents, that they ran it as an emergency clause so that we couldn't even run a referendum, which is why we were forced then to run a second initiative, which takes twice as many signatures. You do have a lot more time to gather them. But I mean, it's just been horrendous.
These are not the people
tyrannical.
that love, quote, democracy. And
they have no love for democracy. And because even right now, this very moment, they are running about 2, maybe 3 bills through the legislature to try and upend our initiative process, because it's the last voice we have, the last little bit. So they're going to try and require that we collect 1,000 signatures before you can even file for an initiative. They want to make it so that the person collecting the signatures has to sign on the back, basically that if any of the signatures were incorrect or whatever, that we could be held criminally liable. So nobody's going to want to gather signatures if you think that you're going to get punished, if anything. Yeah, and here's the people, these are from the people who say anyone can basically register to vote if you just say, on my honor, I'm a citizen, right? And then they mass mail ballots out and they say the signatures are fine. But on this, I mean, they are going, it's just, there's a podcast out. I'll give a shout out to Brandy Cruz. If you don't follow her, she's a citizen podcaster here. She's fantastic. And she did a bit of a piece on this just recently. They had a hearing in committee on one of the initiative killer bills, we're calling them. And of course, all 3 of the union representatives, 3 union representatives there saying nonsense. And I wrote to my Senator Deb Krishnadashan here out of my district. And I said, hey, they're calling it, the unions are saying, well, these are millionaires, and the poor citizens, they don't even know what they're signing because it's just been paid for by millionaires or whatever. And, I got this letter back from my senator, and she said, well, I'm grateful for all the things you do, but we're just going to, these bills are really to make sure that citizens know, what it is that they're signing for, that they have an clear understanding of what it is they're doing. I
guess they're not smart enough.
Condescending.
I know they're not.
It's so condescending and arrogant, right? And that you're doing it correctly.
Explained to them, because they must not have understood what they signed.
Yeah, or they wouldn't have signed this, right? And then that they're doing it correctly, as if we've been doing this correctly, and it was even certain. The Secretary of State certifies it. That means it was done correctly, and then the Supreme Court said, yeah, it was even constitutional. I mean, it's just nonsense. They just can't stand anyone else having a voice.
No, they'll move the needle. They'll keep moving and moving. No matter what you do, you can't get there. I mean, could this be challenged in court if they were to do this?
Right now it's running through, but they have the majority. I mean, they have they can pass just about whatever they want to.
Go to the Supreme Court? Could this
it will definitely be challenged. Oh, yes. I mean, absolutely. It's a First Amendment. this is a First Amendment, this will definitely, if they pass this, it will definitely be challenged in court and it will not win. It just won't.
No, I
There was some
can't see
great
it.
legal analysis about it, and they've written it to them. Many people are signing in, many people are speaking back. But that takes time. See, anything they can also do to delay is part of their game. So
Yes.
even if they know it's illegal, they're going to do it because they know it will delay, and
Yes.
that buys time to get things into the school district to allow them to have it in place so that it's much more difficult to extract later on. I mean, it's all just such obfuscation and nonsense.
Yeah. When they have power, they use
Wield
it.
it.
They
Yeah.
wield it.
Mhm.
And I don't want to use those underhanded tactics and go against,
No.
but when we have power, we hide. We take our little power and we run and hide.
Yeah.
Like I'm just talking to Lindsey Beckham in Mississippi. Like when they have majorities, they run scared. They're afraid to even do
Don't want to
something that's
offend anyone,
legal.
right? Don't want
That's
to offend anyone.
completely legal, that's right. Hey, let's expand
Hmm.
school choice. They're like, oh no, oh no, oh no. They run and hide. These people, they will do
Right.
anything. They don't believe in rule of law. They don't believe in the Constitution. It's will. It's sheer political will. The
Hmm.
Constitution is the document that is meaningless and worthless to them. All they care about is power and getting it, and when they have it, wielding it and crushing you with it. And the sooner that people understand this, the
Yes.
better.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm like so fired up
I
about this.
know. Well, come on out and be fired up with us, Scarlett.
I want to.
And
I
so many
really
people are
do.
fleeing our state, and what we say over and over is, no, we are not going to be bullied out of our home. And people have got to stay here and speak up and don't let them crush our voices. Don't let them silence us. And even my really liberal progressive friends, and we have them. Some of them I don't have anymore, but many of them I do. It's like, look at once you explain what's going on to them, they understand this is not fair. This is not right.
No, it's
This is
not.
not democracy. And like you said, and like Amanda told you, it's true. I grew up in Eastern Washington. I'm a fourth generation Washingtonian, raising a fifth, as I like to say. And truly, the majority of our state is conservative, has conservative values and beliefs. And in fact, if the eastern side of our state weren't, I mean, truly, it's been at least 40 years that I can think that people have always said over there, well, it doesn't matter if I vote because King County, Seattle, rules the state anyway. And so they have stopped voting, and the voting turnouts in that part of the state, in eastern Washington, some of these areas, is so low. But if every single voter came out and voted in those areas of our state, it would overwhelm King County.
Get out
But
and
they are
vote
so
and put up signs.
demoralized.
Put
They're
up
so
signs.
demoralized. Yes, we
Say
have
we
to, we
support
got
this.
to.
We support this. Wear the shirt. Like we be vocal. Be
Yes,
out there. Like they just be have that boldness so that they can't appear like the majority. Like all it takes is just so few to just
it
stand up
does.
and just I
Hmm.
won't be silenced. But they do that. That happens in rural areas of Wisconsin, rural areas of Illinois, rural
Yeah,
areas of Minnesota, everywhere in Virginia. I Moms for Liberty, how many times do we talk to so
yeah,
many families that say my community is mostly conservative and our state really is, like, if they're not, maybe they're not diehard conservative, but they're not crazy far left either. But they just feel, why vote? Because this Milwaukee, Madison, the big college
hmm,
town, there's just no point. So I'm just going to eat, drink, and be merry. Um,
yeah.
and they
Or
think
just,
it's not going
or
to
I'll just
affect
move out
them.
of state and I'll move to Idaho. I'm like, you know what? Idaho's 10 years behind Washington. Just give it some time. If we don't stop this here, and you see what's going on over even there, and
There's
how
some
the
crazy stuff going on in
in
Idaho right
Idaho,
now.
right? And
We're
in
about to
everywhere
talk
else,
about that.
everywhere, the grass is not greener. We just have got to start saying enough and do it
Yes.
peacefully and kindly. I'm not going to, go and do anything rash, but I believe that we have to stand up for these kids and we have to speak out. And yes, Eastern Washington has got to start voting and voting en
Yeah.
masse. And we
Yes.
got, I mean, if they would just get a few, like even the school board directors out there, how critical that is. just those local elections are make all the difference in your county. I mean, the state is going hard for our local sheriff right now. They're trying to make it so that he's appointed rather than than elected, because they did that up in King County, and now they want to king our Pierce, as we like to say, right? And because they know that's the last line standing between you and them, right? So
I firmly believe that there's a lot of people that are going along with this because they believe that they're, oh, this is hardly ever happening. These people are just crazy. They have like Trump derangement syndrome, and there's so many things. But if you have conversations and you really talk to them and you say, really, would you want a male, biological male competing with
mhm,
females? They're like, no, no, I wouldn't. Or do you think that parents should not have access to their child's health records in elementary school or middle school? Do you think that teachers and school counselors should be able to keep medical secrets from parents? And they're like, no, that doesn't sound right, right
right.
to me.
No, it's like an 85, percent of people
Yes.
in this state, 80% would be like, yeah, no, we don't want this. And I think that's one of the reasons, the unions and everybody fought so hard to keep us from being able to collect the signatures this last year, was that they really didn't want this going to the ballot, especially in 2026 when we've got all these other, legislative seats on the ballot. And so they know that this is such a popular issue. They didn't want those on the ballot because maybe people will actually come out and vote. And so that's actually a really positive thing for us, is that it will be on the ballot. Although we would love to have a hearing at the legislature and have them pass it, or at least have it heard. So,
Have
but there
they've
is a
already
rally, like
said
I said. No,
have
but
they
there is
already
a rally
said
on the
they're
3rd,
not?
and I'm not going to be able to be there. Unfortunately, I'm speaking that day, and some other local groups up north. So they had already asked me to come speak on that same day that Let's Go Washington is having their rally. But I'm hopeful that many of our members from the chapters across the state will be there, and so it'll be
Yeah,
good.
and there's a lot of other grassroots organizations that you work with,
Yes.
coalitions working
Hmm.
together, grassroots coming together,
Yes.
no zero-sum games. We're all in this together.
Yes.
And that's why I love that Let's Go Washington became like an umbrella for everyone to come together. It's not like I did this. It's we did this. And that's the way
Yes.
it has to be. We
It
all
has
have to
to be
work
that way.
together. Yeah,
Yes.
and that's what we do at Moms for Liberty, and we're really centering on that in 2026, coalition building, working together. Don't say this is my little piece of the pie and you can't, like, no,
You're
let's
taking members from my
yes.
organization. Like, no, 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 no,
No,
no.
no, you don't have, like, we'd love to have you join, but you don't have to. I'm going to work with you, even if you
Yeah.
like, because we are on the
These.
same team. And so
Mhm.
let's just do this. This isn't about like the email list. This is about actually getting things done. And
Yes.
the more that people see that, that this isn't an astroturf thing, we're not like trad wives, here are my
Can I roll my eyes big enough, right?
yeah, but this isn't just about like we actually do things. We want to do
Mhm.
things. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
great when we're in DC. And I loved being at the rally, but that's just part of it that I've spent 6 years, working through the grind, and here now there isn't anything that I am asking people to do that I have not done myself.
Yes.
I've done it all. I've all the all, and now I have and talked to so many other people that we're trying to tell people this is what is effective. But
Hmm.
I I am definitely coming to Washington. I told my husband there
Fabulous.
I've got to plan something. Looking at my calendar, I want to be there because I feel I have something to learn, because what you guys are doing, I want to do here in Wisconsin,
Mm.
because there's legislation that we have a Democrat governor, and we've got a state Supreme Court that is far left now.
Mhm.
And so all we have the legislature, I don't know how much longer we will, but we can't get this common sense legislation passed. The governor vetoes it. And frankly, I'm not really thrilled with the way some of the leadership in my state, in the state legislature, the way they do hear the bill, they have the hearings, they pass them, but there's no one really knows. The hearings are like they're just, when I think, let's make a big deal, like you, I want the hearing, I want the people, I want a big one, I want to plan it, I want to bring people in, like, and so our legislative day
Well,
is actually February 3rd.
it's taken a while even here in Washington. And someone just said I was at a conference this last week in the Roanoke Conference out on in Ocean Shores on the Pacific Ocean out there. And it was interesting because somebody mentioned that, several years ago, wasn't now that many years ago, there used to be 20 people assigned from media from all around the state to be at the hearings in Olympia to report out on what was happening there. And right now, guess how many there are? 4. I mean, and those are all, talking about Seattle Times and people who are just not reporting. It's so lopsided, right? Nobody should be subscribing to the Seattle Times anymore. And it's the same type of thing as, any of these other legacy media groups that are just not getting the information out. Really, the new news here in Washington, and it's helped so much, are our local journalists, Jonathan Cho and Brandy Cruz and different Caroline from the Center Square. I mean, there's some people who are really doing a fantastic job. Ari Hoffman, I can think of a few others. So it's so important that we tune into that, and that is becoming the news now. And that's really helped, and trying to get what's happening in Olympia out to the people, because for so long people weren't turning into TBW, TV Washington or whatever it stands for. And so it's important that information we have a lot of citizen journalists and just regular people now sharing what's going on everywhere, and it's really starting to make a difference. We have several organizations that put out regular things. Go in and register your position on these bills, con or pro, and write in, testify. And I have seen since 2020 till now, just a massive increase in citizen participation in what's happening in Olympia, because people are like, we're just going to do everything we can. So while you guys are out there writing or whatever you're doing, we are going to influence Olympia peacefully and do civic engagement. And that's what we're trying to do. And it's what everybody needs to do. We just need more of it. And we need to continue this
really
snowball until it will change, because we have truth on our side. And this can only go on for so long. This kind of nonsense can only last for so long.
And it's really good to make it easier for the regular person who cares, but just because to list the legislation, the number here, and then here the day to testify. And if you want, here's some sample testimony. You can look through that, maybe pull some of that, do your own. And here's where you can submit it. It would be great if you came in person. Sometimes if someone's really shy and they're not a public speaker, we'll ask, we'll assign someone else will read this for you in your stead. There's all sorts of strategies, but getting there, or just getting there, registering in person and saying, I'm affirmative for this. Here's my written testimony. And maybe I'm a little nervous about actually speaking, but showing up, and usually people eventually find courage and they get up there and they give their testimony, and it's great. And then they want to come back.
It's not long. It's just a minute. Usually they only give you a minute to a minute and a half to speak.
Yeah.
And I have to say, shout out to a gal from, I need to memorize her name because I haven't. But this last week, where they were doing the testimony in the committee on one of the initiative killer bills, and she drove from Okanagan County. And I have a lot of relatives up in Okanagan. That's north central Washington. So she drove 6.5 hours over the mountain pass in winter to give a 1.5 minute testimony. And then they cut it, I think, down to just 1 minute, and then they let her finish it. I mean, talk about commitment. I was so proud of her. I mean, she could have done it by Zoom. She could have stayed home and done it by Zoom. But the truth of the matter is, to drive 6.5 hours to be able to testify in Olympia on something that was that important to her really showed everybody else up. What excuse do you have if you're going to drive over the mountain pass in the snow?
Do you have it recorded? Do you guys?
I have. It's on TV. It's on TVW. We can find it for sure and pull up the hearing. But it's people like that give me hope and faith that this state is not lost, and there are still plenty of people out there willing to go the extra mile and do what you need to do. You can submit, written testimony. You can give your testimony via Zoom. But I have to tell you, I did wait last year. I remember there was a really critical bill that I wanted to testify on, and I waited 6 hours on Zoom on their committee hearing until they finally got to citizen comment. And they did call on me. And you never know, even if you go all the way down to Olympia, if they will call on you. It depends on how many people have signed up to testify. So you may or may not get called, even if if she could have driven 6.5 hours and they might not have called on her, which would have been tragic. So I'm really grateful that they did. But I waited 6 hours on Zoom. I got on, and then my Zoom call cut out halfway through my testimony. My connection dropped. And so my friend texted me. She said, "You just lost." They just said, Sarah, are you there?" And then they shut it off. So, I mean, it can be frustrating. But then because of that, I wrote my comments out and I submitted them, so they had them still. And I understand they do read them. So however you can do it. And sometimes it can be frustrating, but it's the best we have right now. And that's it, just trying and just engaging. And last year I was probably down there 10 times testifying in Olympia on several bills that pertain to our mission of parents' rights and education. And it's important.
Yeah,
We just
it's
have
important.
to keep doing it. Even if they're going to strip it the next year or do whatever shenanigans they're going to do, like we say, they're only going to win if we quit. And that's what they're
Yes.
trying to get us to do, is to quit. This
Yes,
is a
you can't
long
quit.
game. This is an endurance game. And I don't quit.
Great. Well, in closing, what can you
Yeah.
what's next? What's next? You have the 2 initiatives right now.
Yes.
What's coming up next? You have the rally on February 3rd. So if
Yes.
you are in Washington, go, but what else is coming up?
We're going to have our Moms for Liberty Washington Legislative Day on the Hill coming up. That will be also in February, so we're looking forward to that. And meeting with many of our legislators. I just met at this conference this last weekend. I had a chance to talk with several legislators, so that was really great. So those are some things. And of course, we have fairs and meetings where we're going to just be educating a lot of people on what's happening in Washington State in our children's schools. I don't know if you saw, Brandy has just put out several things recently.
I
Brandy
just
Cruz.
saw something that Corey DeAngelis posted about that I wanted to talk about too, that I'm going to post about, but it looked that there was something to do with anti-ICE.
Oh, I don't, that might have been. I don't know about
That's
that
a
as
whole
much. I
nother
mean,
thing. It's in
that's
Washington
happening
State.
in our schools too.
Yeah, they're
Yes. In
trying to
fact,
get kids to walk out. They're trying to get teachers to walk out. It's kind of a national
I
movement.
think it was last week, Seattle School District locked down like 6 schools or something because ICE was alleged to be in the air. They didn't even confirm it. Somebody might have just said seen something or someone and freaked out and called someone, and they shut down 6 schools, including elementary schools. I mean, that to me is psychological abuse. These kids, why are they that's terrorism in my mind. Against our own, I mean, trying to turn the children's hearts against their own government and terrifying them against law enforcement.
Yes.
And then locking them down as though they are endangered. This has got to stop. It is not okay. And our state superintendent, Chris Reichdahl, again, came on and said something, about we're going to make sure these kids stay safe. And our governor, all of these nonsense about schools. And of course, ICE is not going into schools. We know that. And so this is just nonsense. It's stirring up contention is what it's doing. Stirring up the hearts of the people to turn against their government, against law enforcement, and to make them feel afraid. And it's wrong in every sense of the word.
It's in the Saul Alinsky playbook. This is part of Rules for Radicals, Beautiful Trouble, Chaos. They're agents of chaos because chaos is a ladder for them. And whenever you never let a crisis go to waste. And they create a crisis. They don't let it go to waste. It's so much. There's so much going on. It's hard to take in all of it sometimes, but that's why this story in Washington, there is so much good like this, despite now that I've learned even more that years you've been fighting this, you get the success and they just gut it and they take it apart and they think they won. And then that's a big deal to go back and do it again, get it on the ballot again. A lot of people would just give up. But you didn't, and so many other grassroots organizers and Let's Go Washington that you went back out and you did it again, and that's to be commended for sure.
Yeah, and again, thanks to Brian Haywood, really, he spearheaded this and his team, and then we all just all of us helped to gather signatures as much as we can.
Yeah,
so
I have to meet him.
Yeah, for sure. Great
Yes.
guy.
All right. Well, Sarah, thanks for coming on and talking
Thanks for
about
taking
this.
the time.
I'm going to be putting this on in like 20 minutes. So let's go. Let's go, Washington.
That's right.
Let's
Thank
go,
you so much, Scarlett.
America. Let's go,
Yes,
America. Come on. Let's
let's
do more
go.
of this. Like, and what I love here is don't be limited by the fact that you're in a blue state. Like, because I hear that I'm in a
Yeah.
blue state, I'm in a blue
No.
state. Don't let that stop you. Don't let them win. I mean, just you can't. You can't let them win
No.
because
It's
at
not, well, and
some
it's not even a blue state. What is that? It means that some people, yes, we have this, people in power right now, but that doesn't mean they can't change. And like you said, three-fourths of our state really are conservative. And then there's everything in between that's purple and whatever. So I don't even like to say that. I mean, it's just
and
so
look at
landlocked that
Florida.
way,
Just
right?
look at Florida. They are a constant thorn in the
Yes.
side of Governor DeSantis and the Republicans. They just had a press conference that we just posted about, and Tina had
Hmm.
talked about, where they said like they're all our children in Florida. Like so they still, do you think they just said, oh well, we lost, we're just gonna go home now? We're not gonna. No, they fight. They get back out and they fight and they fight and they fight, and that's that tenacity.
You have to look at this as a much more consequential, like a basketball game. And you're 3 seconds, 3 seconds in a basketball game is huge. It's a lot,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You can
Yep.
change the game.
Yep.
So why would you quit when it has to do with your kids instead of just a basket?
And we've just started.
Just
They've been
really,
doing this a long, long
yes,
time, and we're
yes,
just getting started. We really are. Even 5 years is just getting started. They've been
just
doing this
barely. Mhm.
for 50,
Decades,
60 years,
decades,
decades.
decades.
Decades. And you know what? 50, 60 years ago, they were in the minority. They didn't have a lot of political
Right.
power. They had to find ways, and that's what we have to do. We have to find ways to get a win and think, okay, it's a long, like you said, a marathon, but here's just one. This is just one step, and now we're going to go do the next one and the next one, and until you get there. So
Mhm.
well, thanks for coming on, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
I can't wait to see you in person again.
Yeah, that'll be great. All
All
right, we
right.
look forward to seeing you when
Thanks.
you come out to Washington. Let me know when you
I'm
want to come.
coming out. I'm coming out
Okay.
because there's a lot going on.
And there's a lot more that we want to do, so come on. We'll see you then.
Students, if you know students, recruit them. I'm honored to now introduce President Becky Pringle, President of the National Education Association. Look, there's no way that we're going to be able to stop fascism without organized labor. And Becky is the president of our country's largest labor union. Becky and NEA have been deep in partnership with Sunrise and many other organizations, building student and worker organizing power to make this May Day a huge moment in our fight against the billionaire class, against fascism, and for the world that we deserve. I am honored to pass it to you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Aru. Aren't our students incredible? Aren't they incredible? They make me proud to say I taught for 31 years, our middle level students in 8th grade. And we know that our young people have always been and always will be at the center of every movement. And I'm so proud of them, just so proud of them. If a society permits one portion of its citizenry to be menaced or to be destroyed, then very soon, no one in that society is safe. Those words by W.E.B. Du Bois remind me that during these dark times when federal agents can snuff out innocent lives on the streets of Minneapolis and claim self-defense, even as multiple videos stand in stark rebuke when outrageous and illegal and deadly immoral ICE detentions caused the disappearing of children, including 5-year-old Liam Ramos. As we do the work of building a better world, we must also know that this is that time, that we need to keep each other safe. So on behalf of the education professionals who belong to the NEA, the National Education Association, thank you, Sunrise, for standing on the front lines in Minneapolis and in so many cities across our nation, demanding justice in all forms. Know that the NEA will continue to use our vast network, 3 million members, 51 state affiliates, 14,000 locals, members in every congressional district, to advocate and to partner, to take action, to educate, to organize, to mobilize, to litigate, and to elect people who believe in public education and in our Constitution. I'm always honored to share a virtual space, virtual or in person, with Representative Khanna, and grateful for all that he is doing to stop ICE violence and overreach, and being steadfastly an ally of educators and our students. So no surprise, NEA is one of this administration's top targets. Dictators always come for educators because we teach the children how to think for themselves, how to question and analyze, to solve wicked problems, and to create community, to appreciate the world's diversity, and to dream and to fight and to make this world a better place. This administration is using ICE to bring fear and trauma into our schools. You heard our students talk about that. It was palpable.
Because you lied to them.
Agents are traveling through neighborhoods, wandering past schools and following school buses. They've even assaulted and detained educators and students on school grounds. Educators are seeing this damage every day. Empty seats and a rising need for counseling and mental health supports. In Minneapolis, where families and children are afraid to leave their houses to go to work or take students to the school bus stop, educators are delivering much needed supplies. And across the country, educators are organizing and standing in solidarity with parents to make sure our students have what they need. That sort of collective action is what is required of us now, right now. As we bear witness to the unimaginable, our government's actively engaging in warfare against the American people. I'm talking about the kind of collective action between students and labor leaders and community leaders and working families that drew more than 75,000 people to Minneapolis last week. I'm talking about last year's May Day actions, the largest ever. And I'm talking about the courage and collective action that will bring us together again, May Day strong, standing in our power, continuing the fight against greedy billionaires and all who seek to line their own pockets by destroying the dreams and dignity of those who call this country home. Together, we will demand that this administration stop scapegoating immigrants just so they can implement cruel and callous policies and occupy our communities. Together, we will call for a country where working people can afford to feed their families, where no one is terrorized. For as long as it takes, we will not cooperate, knowing what research shows, that when 3.5% of the population engages in sustained strategic escalation, those movements win. So we must continue to build our broad coalition to fight against the undemocratic and inhumane. And we also must fight forward. We have to create that vision of an inclusive and just society that protects our communities respects our Constitution. We, the people, all of us, deserve that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I need you all to stay strong and remember that solidarity, it's a verb. Thank you, Aru.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, your guys' incredible work. I just really, truly believe it's going to take all of us, and you're showing us the way in many ways. With that, it's going to really take all of us, like Becky said, and solidarity is a verb. And if you want to take action right now, we have a form for you to fill out to do that. So if you go to smvmt.org/take-action, there is a form for you to actually do things right now, wherever you are, and work to stop ICE, which is step 1 in our longer plan to build up to mass non-cooperation that can kick Trump out and win changes to our political system so it actually works for everyday people. We need to turn that into the electoral power to actually kick him out in 2028. Because yes, the election may not be as free or as fair as we want it to be, but we also know that we need to show that majorities of people are against this regime, and we need to be able to vote Trump out. And when we do that, it is really important that we are able to keep that giant united coalition of groups that has come together to defeat Trump and actually turn it into structural political reforms that make this country fairer, that actually give everyday working people more power over our everyday lives. Because when our political system isn't working, when people don't have...
They suck. We don't want them to sleep. And also because these hotels shouldn't be housing these ICE agents, and we want the guests to complain to the hotels and also not want to stay at these hotels in the fear that they're gonna, be woken up in the middle of the night. And these have been really cool, and I think, we've had some hotel employees actually request that we do a wide awake at their hotel, just so that they can have an excuse to cook ICE out, which has been really heartwarming. We've also had other guests at the hotels. Some guests come out, they're really angry, understandably. But we also have some guests who are so excited to see us there. Just on Friday night, we did noise demos at 4 hotels in a row. And at the third one we were at, 2 girls were at the window, and they were just so excited, and they were waving at us. It was really heartwarming to see that part too. And I think what's really cool is it's such a cathartic outlet for us as well. I think especially noticing that one when we did a massive demonstration at the Canopy Hotel in downtown Minneapolis. We were expecting maybe a few hundred people to show out. It ended up being like 2,000 or 3,000 people, way more than we had expected. And this was immediately after the murder of Renee Good. And so people were angry, people were sad. And for us to have this outlet to give people this outlet to make noise and just be disruptive in that sense and really mess with ICE's operations was really great. And so what we've been doing since then too is we've been trying to grow our ability to go to more hotels. So within the Twin Cities itself, we've been doing trainings and just trying to decentralize the wide awakes so that we don't have to keep doing them ourselves, because we need to get sleep as well. And so really trying to get that. So I guess a few nights ago, there was even one wide awake that we hadn't planned, but someone else had. And it definitely got a little out of hand. But that was where ICE agents were actually evacuated. And they were basically just kicked out in the middle of the night. So that was really, it was really cool to see that sort of thing happening. And also in New York City, yesterday, there was sitting in the lobby. And also, I believe in Austin, there was one recently as well.
And yeah, it's really cool to see this. We want to be taking this nationwide, and we have a lot of other other cities that are planning these as well. We have, I think, Portland.
The China Commission in Congress, ironically enough, as co-chair with Marco Rubio. We used to bring in Chinese political prisoners, and we would ask them, when we speak up and call out your government, is it bad? And they said, well, in the short run it's bad because they torture us. But if you don't speak up, they will torture us and forget about us. And the idea is right now is we have to be speaking up. We have to call it out. You are doing everything, and our neighbors are doing everything. And I can't stress enough on this. We're winning it because we're doing it with Minnesota grit, Minnesota humor, Minnesota decency. Oftentimes talk about this, and I know people are discussing this a lot. I spent a lot of time with John Lewis on nonviolent resistance. The resistance matters. We're not telling people to be silent, but we're not telling people to go out and cause problems. We're going to cause good trouble.
No one on the other side of this issue seems to be worried about the girls who are being affected by this, but they are fully supportive of those few transgender athletes. It makes me feel like the feelings of the transgender athletes are all that matter, and that our voices do not matter. Our fairness and safety are being dismissed by the adults who are supposed to protect us. So today I want to speak directly to Governor Bob Ferguson, Superintendent Chris Reichdahl, and the WIAA. We are asking you to listen to the female athletes in Washington who are being directly affected by your policy of allowing biological boys to compete in women's sports. You have stood up for the transgender athletes, but you have not stood up for us. We matter too, we have voices, and we have stories. And Superintendent Chris Reichdahl, you have said that Washington public schools must provide a safe and non-discriminatory environment for all students, so that all students can thrive. Chris Reichdahl, I need you to hear this clearly. We are not thriving with boys in our locker rooms or with boys in our sports. When you say all students, it seems that you have forgotten that all includes biological girls. You are not upholding the very standard that you claim to stand by. I am tired of adults twisting this into something hateful when it isn't. I'm tired of being called awful things just for saying what is right. This is not about hate. This is not about discriminating against transgender athletes. This is about protecting girls, physically, emotionally, and competitively.
This is on a website, mobilize.us, NEA. This is for NEA members, okay? This gives them a whole bunch of links and flyers and information about all kinds of far left political activity that they can engage in. The NEA, the National Education Association, is the largest public sector union in America, comprised of teachers, administrators, educators, 3 million. Look at this. Stop ICE, fight ICE now. Meet at the courthouse. We are done with performative demonstrations. Look at this. We can be a powerful presence. Wear black, wear a mask. Don't want them to see who you are, do you? Look at that. All the information right there to sign up to fight ICE. That is for educators. Let's see. Candlelight vigils. Oh, a legislative update in Indiana. Wow. Georgia. ICE out in Georgia. You think it's just the blue states? Think again. They are mobilizing far left activists. They are bringing them into your red state. As I am talking to you right now, it's happening. Indivisible, look at that. That was South Carolina. Illinois, North Carolina, Candlelight walk-in visual in my neck of the woods, Wisconsin. Michigan, no ice, no war. Again, these are all protests. They're political protests with radical activists. Now here's a legislative day meeting that was shown before. Indiana. Days of action. Indiana State Teachers Association. Missouri. More. There. Look at. Let's mobilize in Missouri. Come on. Let's bring all the left-wing activists. Day of action in Missouri. This is a teachers' union. A teachers' union. When do they ever talk about students and children and raising reading scores and test scores and proficiency rates? When do they ever talk with teachers about what they need in classrooms? I don't think they talk about that very much at all. Look at this, Washington State. Young Worker March on Washington. So this would mean, hey, let's get your students involved, young workers. Wow. NEA makes you wonder. So it's on an activist website. Here we go, Stand with Minnesota. Minnesota's under occupation. You can see some of the language here. They need your help. And they're going to provide a vetted directory. So let's just keep looking. Help impacted families pay their rent. Donate to the orgs on the front line. Go to a GoFundMe. Who are you going to fund? Oh, you're going to go fund the protesters? Yeah, you're going to help them, get them food, pet and animal support, union member support. Could that be the teachers union? Crowdfunding campaigns. Oh, look, they have a form you can donate. Let's see. Funds for schools and students, fund for communities, funds for employees. Oh, look, all the organizations doing the work on the ground. This is, mind you, this is just one website of many. Legal defense, jail support. So if they're protesting and they get arrested, look at all of these organizations. Keep going. Yep, keep going. Still more. Again, this is just one website of many. All the organizations that are on the ground in Minnesota, this is just a little bit. Here's the legal support. Yeah, so and this is for the protesters. A lot of this is for the protesters.
This isn't politics to us Hispanics. This is our lives. We tend to be afraid to speak our family's language in public, afraid of neighbors, afraid of strangers, afraid that someone's perception, not a crime, not a threat, just bias, could lead to a called attention or abuse. Always scanning rooms, always lowering our voices, always wondering who might be listening. That fear follows you everywhere you know. It teaches you that safety is conditional, that your humanity is negotiable. So let me ask you plainly, will it take for you to live this fear every day before you feel empathy? Will it take your family being targeted, your language used as a bullseye, your child being taken? And to those who hide behind religion and supporting this, hear me clearly as your sister in Christ. The Bible does not defend cages. It does not excuse rape. It does not bless terror.
ICE is specifically targeting communities in Milwaukee, like the Hmong people, Somalians, and people of Hispanic descent. Not too long ago, they deported my gang, a Hmong American born in Thailand, to Laos, a country that she has never even been to before. This is outright nonsense. ICE has to be stopped before the public executions, racial profiling, and the unwarranted kidnapping of people continues.
And look me in my eyes when I say this. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. You never shut it. That's the deportation. The people unite.
purpose is to sow agitation and disruption at all levels, everywhere, in order to affect the ideological subversion or demoralization of the entire population. You want the entire population confused about what is and is not true, and you target every single separate class or sector with things that will actually agitate them. That Lenin is so just cavalier about saying we're going to use agitation and propaganda over and over and over again is, again, it's a sign of his times. They didn't, like, those are bad words now. Agitprop is not a good word, but it tells you that they felt fully entitled to go irritate people until they could create conditions that were so tumultuous that they could take over power and bring stability, because that's what they were going to do, is go make everything crazy, and then we're going to provide, at least the workers and the peasants are going to get stability, land and bread for everybody, and jobs for the people in the city.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you?
Why do you claim to support women and girls?
Yet when we need you most,
You remain silent.
Today, males are claiming our identity.
Our sports,
our spaces,
men and boys are stealing opportunities, medals,
trophies,
and our future.
And it's not fair or just.
In fact, it's often dangerous. Yet you refuse to use your platform to stand up.
You say you're for social justice and progress.
So why do you allow men's rights to come before ours? See, with a big platform
comes an even bigger responsibility.
You have a chance to do the right thing,
not just do the easy thing.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
As the biggest voice in all of sports.
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me?
Will you stand up for me?
Will you stand up for me?
Will you?
Will you?
Will you just do it?